Part 96. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 951. Even if you can't have a child for the time being, you can slowly raise it according to the old method, and it will grow up, Du Hao said. What if you can't raise it? Murong Cheng asked again. Du Hao hesitated, and said, if you can't raise it well, you have to avoid rivers and lakes. Once your body enters the water, I'm afraid there will be another scary state. For example, there was a time when Mu Zi was pushed into an artificial lake by Mu Ling. As soon as her body fell into the water, her soul immediately came out of her body. In this way, life seems to bring a lot of inconvenience. You can't go to sea, you can't go boating, you can't soak in hot springs, and you probably have to be careful when taking a bath at home. Murong Cheng was silent. A cigarette was about to burn out. He waved his hand, and Du Hao backed out. Murong Cheng stayed alone in the study for a while, and when the smell of smoke was almost gone, he went back to his room to look for Mu Zi. Mu Zi sat on the bed and played with her mobile phone. Murong Cheng leaned over and saw that she had created a chat group, and she had drawn several friends into the group, and was announcing the news that she was about to get married. The news in the group jumped up and down, and it was very lively. While editing messages in the chat box, Mu Zi asked Murong Cheng, how did the talk go? Murong Cheng was next to her, watching her send a message, and lazily said, Du Hao said, it must be waterproof. Oh, Mu Zi nodded without any surprise, that's all? Are there any other precautions? Murong Cheng frowned slightly. He didn't want to mention the matter of having a baby. You think it's easy, he said seriously, there's so much water, it's impossible to guard against it. Be more restrained in the future. It's okay. Mu Zi didn't take it seriously, she just needs to stay away from the swimming pool. She lowered her head and chatted a few more words in the group. She faintly recalled it, felt something was wrong, and suddenly turned her head to look at Murong Cheng. There was a playful smile in Murong Cheng's eyes. Murong Cheng. You bastard. Mu Zi picked up the phone and was about to smash it, but after thinking about it, she felt that it was not worthwhile, so she put down the phone again and went to pinch his face. Do you have a face? Do you have a face? Murong Cheng let her pinch her, and even plausibly said, Zizi, it's you who think too much. Mu Zi was about to die of anger. Smooth Murong Cheng stretched out his hand to rub her chest. Mu Zi wanted to push him away, but she didn't push him. Instead, the two of them collapsed on the bed together, their hands clasped, their lips and teeth intertwined, and their breathing quickly became messy. He kissed her lips, her chin, her slender neck, and her delicate collarbone, slowly moving down, causing a burst of trembling. The numbness made people sink, and then he stopped, at her wound gently dropped a kiss, breathing hot. Looking at the scar, he wondered if he was really wrong. Heirs are difficult, and the people around him suffer bad luck. Is it because he is too vicious? Doing things too harshly? Zizi, I regret it very much. Murong Cheng looked at the scar and sighed softly, but he didn't say what he was regretting. Mu Zi sat up slowly and looked at him in bewilderment. Murong Cheng raised the corners of his lips, his smile was weak, and his expression showed a bit of helplessness, even desolation. This kind of Murong Cheng is unfamiliar. Different from the usual domineering and crazy, he is lonely and weak. Mu Zi's heart shrank slightly, and she felt sorry for him. With a long heart and flesh, how can anyone really be an impregnable wall? What's wrong? She asked softly. It's okay, Murong Cheng said, I just suddenly thought of my mother, and I don't know if she is doing well now. They never gave up looking for Baiwei, but there was no news. I miss Mom too, Mu Zi murmured against his chest. Tell me, if we hold a super grand wedding and invite many reporters to let every channel broadcast the news of the wedding, will Mom be happy? Saw it on TV, yes, right. Murong Cheng kissed her, yes, yes. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 952. Huang Logui's words became a thorn in Murong Cheng's heart. People in the world always say that good will be rewarded with good, and evil will be rewarded with evil. Murong Cheng didn't believe it before. But now, for Bai Wei, for Mu Zi, and for the child, he is willing to believe. In the evening, he called Wang Zhan and a few cronies who had been with him all the year round to discuss recent matters. First, the identity of Murong Cheng's director was disclosed, and the property in Xianghai City was officially renamed as Muse Group. Second, it is decided to use at least 10% of the casino's profits for charity every year. Wang Zhan and his cronies were shocked. They looked at each other in blank dismay, completely unable to understand how Murong Cheng would do good deeds on a whim. 10% may not sound like much, but it is actually a huge asset. Their casino pays hundreds of millions of taxes every year, feeds hundreds of thousands of employees in the whole city, and maintains the normal operation of the casino. Under such a premise, Murong Cheng is willing to give 10% to charity. This, how, Wang Zhan stammered. Killing and burying corpses is very good, but I am not used to doing charity all of a sudden. Murong Cheng gave him a displeased look. Build schools for children in mountainous areas, build roads, send clothes and food, or allocate funds to nursing homes, buy medical equipment. As long as you do good deeds, you can do anything. In short, the money must be used for practical purposes. Don't play tricks on me. A confidant next to him took out a small notebook and took notes while writing. Another confidant suggested, Master Wrong, we can set up a charitable foundation and allocate funds to deal with such matters. Wang Zhan quickly flattered, it's called the Rong Cheng Charity Foundation. Let everyone remember your wisdom and greatness. Murong Cheng's expression was slightly gloomy, and he said calmly, call me Ziwei Charity Foundation. Mu Zi's Zi, Bai Wei's Wei. Mu Zi's wedding was finally scheduled for August 28. It was already the end of the month, the weather would not be too hot, and Mu Zi's injury was almost healed, and it would not affect the start of school. It's just that the honeymoon trip had to be moved to the winter vacation. Mu Zi fixed a time with each of her friends and invited them to attend her wedding banquet at that time. Murong Cheng has a private jet, so it is very convenient to pick up and drop off. There is an unexpected surprise. Zhuangjia is coming back. And she didn't come back alone. Zhuangjia had a flash marriage abroad. This time she will not only come back to attend Mu Zi's wedding, but also come back with her new husband to hold a make-up wedding. During the group chat, Zhuangjia was very excited, and even aggressively attacked Zhang Xinyuan. Zizi and I are getting married, so you are the only one missing. You and your Wang Zilong, when are you going to get things done? What? Zhang Xinyuan replied, look at him. Zhuangjia, at. Wang Zilong's profile picture is always black. Zhuangjia suddenly felt bored, why isn't Wang Zilong here? Mu Zi smiled and said, Wang Zilong has applied for the police academy. Although school hasn't started yet, he has already gone to participate in military training ahead of schedule. Police academy, Zhuangjia said exaggeratedly, he is going to be a policeman? Why can't he think about it? Zhang Ci. Zhuangjia was embarrassed, Officer Zhang, you are also in the group. The People's Police are really working hard. Wang Zilong chose to apply for the police academy, which shows that his consciousness has improved compared to before. Zhuangjia tried his best to save the scene. Fortunately, he didn't go to be a prosecutor. He is open all year round and the risk is high. Whoever marries is unlucky. Yu Yang. The chat box seemed to freeze, and no one spoke for a long time. Muzi hugged her phone and was about to die laughing. Just as she was about to say something, Zhuangjia chatted with her in private. Zizi, how many people did you recruit into the group? Muzi, not much, not much, you have already teased all you can. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 953. How dare I tease Mr. Prosecutor, Zhuangjia said sadly. Oh, you just say that I am overseas, the network signal is poor, and I am disconnected. Don't drop it yet, send me a photo, Muzi, I said. I'd like to see what kind of man is so charming, so fascinated by our Miss Zhuangjia that he immediately got married. What's the hurry, anyway, you will be able to meet the real person in a few days. Zhuangjia sent a goodbye emoji and quickly logged off. Muse's side is extremely busy with entertaining friends, while Sidu Yan and Chen Kailing are also doing their best for the wedding banquet in Jingling City. The president's daughter is going to get married, which is bound to attract the attention of the people across the country. Once the news is released, everyone may want to know who the groom is. People like the story of Cinderella marrying a prince and a princess marrying a commoner these days, because it breaks the stage and promotes equality. So Sidu Yan would not despise Murong Cheng's low status. But Murong Cheng's problem is scum. A man who eats soft food will not be popular anywhere, but Muzi likes it. Sidu Yan was dying of worry. The people in the office of the presidential palace came up with a plan for Sidu Yan to choose all kinds of occupations that could fool the public. That's it, freelance writer Sidu Yan discussed with the whole family at the dinner table. This profession sounds like a literary accomplishment, and it can also explain why he spends a lot of time at home, and the writers who write manuscripts are all with a pseudonym. The right to privacy will be used as the reason for silence, and there are so many writers in the country, and reporters will not be able to check them one by one. Mrs. Sidhu said in a strange way, why doesn't this person even have a job? Of course, Sidhu Yan didn't have the nerve to say that his daughter had raised a bad boy, he just said that the other party had no job for the time being. Although the members of the Sidhu family felt that Murong Cheng's conditions were not very good, they had no hope of Muzi marrying into a wealthy family, so psychologically, it was acceptable for Muzi to marry an ordinary man. It's a bit early to get married at this age, but since she has already made up her mind, let's prepare well, Mr. Sidhu said. I asked someone to buy a house near Dian Lake. The interior is well decorated. Kailing has worked hard to find someone to decorate it these days, Sidhu Yan said. The wedding banquet is scheduled to be held in Tianka Phoenix Palace, and there will be more people from the media at that time. There are a lot of guests, so I plan to take all of them. Tianka Phoenix Palace, Ning Yue was surprised. Everyone at the table turned to look at her. Ning Yue's complexion changed slightly, she smiled mischievously, and said nothing more. Sidhu Yan didn't take it to heart, and continued to discuss some matters about the wedding with his family, most of which were arranged by the assistant secretary, and they just had to decide whether to do it or not. At this time, the secretary called and said that the Ministry of Communications had received an application for a high-altitude flight in the city. Flying in cities is regulated, just like road traffic. Otherwise, whoever has the money to buy a private jet will fly indiscriminately in the city, which is not only prone to accidents, but also has potential safety hazards, especially in a political center like Jingling City, where the issue of flying at high altitudes is more sensitive. It stands to reason that there is no need to report the matter of the Ministry of Communications to the President, just reject the application directly. However, the application date happened to be the day of the wedding, so the minister kept an eye out and actively reported it. Sidhu Yan asked who the applicant was. The secretary said the name was Murong Cheng. It's him. Why did he apply for a high-altitude flight? Could it be that he can get the plane? Sidhu Yan was full of doubts, but it must have something to do with the wedding, so he asked the Ministry of Communications to approve the application. The matter was almost settled. Sidhu Yan asked the secretary to book the restaurant, but was told that the restaurant had already been booked. It's all settled, Sidhu Yan was surprised. Is there no floor left? The secretary said, it's also a Mr. Murong Cheng, and the whole show is reserved. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 954. Sidhu Yan was astonished. Where did Murong Cheng get the money from? Tianqihuanggong is not an ordinary restaurant, it is a place dedicated to entertaining diplomats, international friends, and political talks. If you want to book the venue, the cost is almost sky high. Sidhu Yan couldn't believe it, and asked again, is he on credit? No, the full payment has been made, the secretary said. Sidhu Yan was even more puzzled. What's going on? Chen Kailing beside him changed his expression slightly, gently took his arm, and whispered about Mu Zi's desire to give her the bank card before leaving. You mean, he used Zizi's private money? Sidhu Yan felt strange, but does Zizi have that much private money? Even if there is, it's not worth it to empty your wallet just to book a restaurant, right? The couple looked at me and I looked at you, but they didn't have a clue. In the evening, Mrs. Sidhu knocked on the door of the couple's room. Chen Kailing opened the door, and was slightly surprised to see Ning Yue following behind the old lady with her head down. It's a bit unusual to find this time. Yue told me just now that the Xie family's original plan was to set up the Phoenix Palace in Tianqi, with 2 floors. Mrs. Sidhu frowned and said, but you want to book the venue now, and when Yue gets married in the future, there are only 2 floors. Doesn't it make people think that we treat Yue harshly? Those reporters don't know how to write it yet. Ning Yue has recently been dating the young master of the Xie family, and has already started talking about marriage. The initial date is the end of this year, but she didn't expect that Mu Zi would take the lead. Originally, they married each other independently, and they had nothing to do with each other, but the restaurant that was booked for the wedding banquet was actually the same place. If Mu Zi rented out the Tianqi Phoenix Palace, and Ning Yue only booked 2 floors when it was her turn, not only would Ning Yue be embarrassed, but Sidhu's family would also cause gossip. Sidhu Yan was stunned for a moment. He really didn't expect this. But the restaurant has already been booked, so I can't go back on my word. Should I thank my family and change the place? So offensive. In my opinion, it's better to let Yue's wedding date be brought forward, and the 2 of you will get married together, the old lady said. Sidhu Yan was surprised. Get married together? The old lady said with a straight face and a flat tone, I know that Mu Zi is your daughter, you feel sorry for her, but Yue grew up by my side, so I feel sorry for you too. Marriage is a joyous event. Thickness is too hurtful. How about getting married together? It looks lively, and outsiders can't fault it. It's rare that the old lady didn't swear, but actually reasoned so calmly. Sidhu Yan hesitated. Will the Xie family agree? 2 marriages come together. Why don't you understand? The old lady frowned in displeasure. It's still 2 marriages, which have nothing to do with each other. They just put the wedding banquet in one place, so as not to be talked about in the future. Layer, do you think your face is radiant when such words spread out? Besides, Tianqi Phoenix Palace is so big, don't you think it's deserted if there are fewer guests? This made sense. Sidhu Yan didn't refute, pondered for a moment, and said, it's too late today, let's rest first. Tomorrow I will ask Xie's family, and Zizi will also ask. Yeah, the old lady nodded and looked at him expressionlessly. You just need to know how to measure. After finishing speaking, he led Ning Yue away. When the 2 left, Chen Kailing closed the door and couldn't help asking Sidhu Yan, you really want the 2 of you to get married together? Ask first. Sidhu Yan frowned. Yue grew up in the presidential palace. If the wedding specifications are too different from Zizi's, it will indeed make people think that we treat each other more favorably than others, which is not authentic. But if they get married together, their husbands will definitely be compared, Chen Kailing said nervously. That's the Xie family, have you forgotten? Xie Lixuan is a well-known talented scholar in Jingling, who has published anthologies and translated how embarrassing it is for a masterpiece to be compared with a freelance writer. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 955. One became famous in the literary world at a young age, and the other was just an unknown writer. Judgment is judged. Sidu Yan couldn't help being dumbfounded. He really didn't think about this issue. At that time, he just wanted to arrange a career for Murong Chen, but he didn't expect this to happen. Change at Sidu Yan's side, change it to a freelance photographer. At any rate, it's out of the literary world, so it's not so ugly in comparison. In order to preserve Mu Zi's face, the couple also took great pains. The next day, Sidu Yan called Xie's family and euphemistically explained the current situation. Old Mr. Xie said politely, we have no objections, but Yue has been wronged. It's not that we don't want to book the venue, but it's because most of our Xie family's relatives and friends are overseas, so booking the venue is too extravagant and wasteful. The Xie family didn't mind, so Sidu Yan called Mu Zi again. Mu Zi asked clearly if the wedding was held separately, so it didn't matter. Murong Chen, however, was too hesitant to respond, and said angrily, I'm out of the purse field, and I still have to take care of other people's banquets. You don't need to book the venue. Mu Zi smiled and suggested, just book half of it, and leave the other half for them. Murong Chen refused straight away, no, there's not enough space to sit down. Nonsense, where are there so many guests? You're just looking for style and ostentation. Mu Zi exposed the truth. Well, anyway, when the time comes, the upstairs and downstairs will not interfere, and this is also good, so as not to waste it. Murong Chen was still unhappy, so Mu Zi imitated his usual appearance, holding his face and kissing him, coaxing him, and Murong Chen's last gloom dissipated. Finally, the day of the wedding came. Sidu Yan and Chen Kailing both put on new attire, glamorous and solemn. The two had never been parents, but they suddenly became husband and mother-in-law, and they felt a little uncomfortable. While waiting for the auspicious time, Sidu Yan suddenly received a phone call. Not knowing what the other party said, Sidu Yan's face darkened, a little serious. What's wrong? Who's calling? Chen Kailing asked anxiously. There is news from the Ministry of State Security that a large number of gang members have entered Beijing with unknown intentions, Sidu Yan said. Chen Kailing was surprised, a gang member. Not only that, many people from the Huo family and Gu family in the south also came. Sidu Yan said solemnly, these families are extremely powerful and have a deep-rooted influence on the local area. It may not be a good thing to gather suddenly. The Ministry of Security has arranged police officers to strengthen patrols. The Anti-Terrorism and Anti-Riot Department has also been dispatched. Chen Kailing asked worriedly, will it affect Zizi's marriage? Sidu Yan looked at her sternly, now is the time to worry about the wedding, the safety of the people comes first. I hope nothing will happen. Chen Kailing sighed and stood up, the time is almost up, I'll go see if Zizi is ready. Not long after she turned and left, Sidu Yan received another call. My lord, those people are all heading towards the Tianke Phoenix Palace. Is there a need for full martial law? What? Sidu Yan was shocked. What are these people trying to do? Could it be that he was dissatisfied with him as the president, so he planned a terrorist act against his daughter's wedding? No, since he took office, he has not issued any policies or regulations that harm the interests of these families. What are they going to do? The palms of the president's palms were hot, and a thin layer of sweat broke out. Sidu Yan asked seriously, how many of them are there? A lot. If we need full martial law, we need to send more armed troops. If even the army is dispatched, the vicinity of Tianqihuangong will definitely be dangerous. It seems that he has to persuade Musa to cancel the wedding temporarily. Although I feel a little sorry, but the overall situation is the most important. Weighing the pros and cons, another call came in. My lord, someone is flying an airship to throw money in the sky. Sidu Yan became irritable. What happened today? Never stop. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 957. The auspicious time has come, and the wedding team is coming to pick up the bride. Ning Yue put on a white gauze, suppressed her excitement and waited for departure. She was married from the Ning family, and the old lady was considered her natal family, so she also returned to the Ning family to send her off to marry. Seeing that the child she brought up was about to marry into a wife, the old lady felt quite emotional, her eyes were slightly hot, she held Ning Yue's hand and said, when I received it by my side, it was not high enough for the table. I'm going to marry. A few uncles and aunts of the Ning family smiled and said, time flies, old lady, maybe next year Yue will give you a baby. Ning Yue lowered her head shyly, her cheeks were rosy. Another human said, maybe there will be 2 younger ones next year? Don't forget, the old lady's granddaughter is also getting married today. Mu Zi is also considered a well-known celebrity, and when she was mentioned, everyone started discussing with great interest. She seems to be only 19 years old, right? Why are you marrying in such a hurry? I heard that the man is not from Jingling, but a freelancer. Tisk tisk, what a blessing to marry the president's daughter. Freelance work? How much money can you earn? Can you afford the dowry? Bride price? Mrs. Sidhu couldn't help but rolled her eyes. She didn't see a dime. The wedding room and banquet were all prepared by Sidhu Yan, the man didn't have a dime at all, even the job was made up. However, the old lady would only hold back these words and think silently in her heart. After all, the reputation of the presidential palace had to be taken into consideration, and it was not good to spread the word. At this time, Ning Yue said softly, it doesn't matter if you don't have status, and money is also an external possession. As long as 2 people really love each other, they are willing to eat chaff. This sounded good, but it was a bit meaningful when it was said in such a situation, as if it implied that the man Mu Zi was going to marry had no status or property, and was a poor and inferior person. When the people around heard the words, they all understood and said with a smile, if you want to talk about Rui, then you are really blessed. Master Xie's family is talented, young, and promising, he is a rare talent. Mr. Xie's family and Mrs. Xie, they are all kind-hearted, Yue will enjoy a happy life if she marries in the past. Isn't it? There is no one who is more suitable than them. Everyone echoed, and another said, have you heard? The ring prepared by Mr. Xie, the diamond on it is as big as this. The speaker gestured with his fingers. One of Ning Yue's cousins said sourly, that's great, when I get married in the future, if the diamond ring is half the size, I'll be satisfied. Ning Yue pursed her lips and smiled amidst all kinds of envious praises, her face was full of glory, the corners of her lips could not stop rising, the joy in her heart almost made her float, this feeling couldn't be better. So what if Mu Zi is the president's daughter? So what if Mu Zi wins the lawsuit? Marriage is a woman's second career, if Mu Zi doesn't marry as well as her, she will always be inferior to her. Ning Yue was happy in her heart, and her smile became brighter and brighter. She left Ning's house amidst the stars and the moon, and got into the wedding car decorated with flowers. Is Muzi in the wedding car now? Ning Yue's mind fumbled with associations. What kind of wedding dress is Muzi wearing? What kind of wedding ring is Muzi wearing? How long is Muzi's fleet? What a pity. Her man doesn't even have a job. If it wasn't for Situ Yan, wouldn't he not even be able to afford a decent dress? It's okay, she can go to the bridal shop to rent it. The president's daughter in a rented wedding dress? Thinking of this, Ning Yue almost laughed out loud. But after laughing for a while, she vaguely felt something was wrong. Ning Yue looked around suspiciously. The streets on both sides were deserted. Not only were there few cars, but there were not many pedestrians. What happened? Why is there no one on the road today? Ning Yue asked. Is it traffic control? Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 958. Ning Yue thought that in order to ensure that the wedding car convoy did not get stuck in traffic, Situ Yan arranged for relevant departments to conduct traffic control. She was in a complicated mood for a while. Being treated preferentially, one is naturally very proud of one's feelings, but things like marriage are always planned to be festive and lively, and now it is deserted. What does it look like? Besides, everyone is gone, who will witness her grandeur when she gets married? Sitting next to her was the groom Xia Lixuan, who seemed to have affected his mood because of this, and the smile on his face was very weak. Ning Yue said softly, my uncle should be worried that the traffic congestion on the road will delay the time of the wedding banquet. Before he finished speaking, Xia Lixuan gave her a strange look. You don't know? Ning Yue was stunned. Know what? The president's son-in-law is throwing money on Beatty Road, and everyone who can go nearby will probably grab it, Xia Lixuan said, with a trace of disgust in his eyes, like a nouveau riche, vulgar. Ning Yue's heart trembled. If it wasn't for the delicate makeup on her face, she could see her pale face. How could this be? Didn't the man Muzi married didn't have a job? Where did the money come from? Both sides of Beatty Road have already been crowded. The wedding car drove smoothly on the road, with a helicopter patrolling and escorting the sky, and an extremely huge airship slowly drifting in the sky. The airbag of the airship is in the shape of a whale, and the pod is decorated with roses, and countless bright red roses will be thrown down every once in a while. Muzi was very pleasantly surprised to see it in the car. She opened the car window to look, and asked Murong Chang, the flower rain you prepared? It's so beautiful, but it seems a bit wasteful to fall to the ground. So many flowers. Thousands of delicate roses are trampled on the ground, and it hurts to think about it. But at this moment, the surprise in my heart was far greater than the regret, and there were few opportunities in life to be so extravagant. Muzi watched the roses falling from the sky, feeling extremely sweet. Murong Cheng smiled indifferently, and said, it won't be wasted. As Murong Cheng said, those roses were snatched up by the crowd watching on both sides before they even fell to the ground. Muzi opened her eyes wide in surprise. What are they doing for flowers? A few roses fell onto the windshield. Muzi looked carefully, only to find that those were not real roses, but flowers folded from banknotes. Muzi was dumbfounded, and for a long time, he slapped Murong Cheng lightly, dumbfounded. You're so foolish. Money can't be so squandered. The flowers rained non-stop, floating all over the sky, and every time it fell, the crowd burst into cheers. Maybe it's because it's new, or maybe it's stimulated by money. The atmosphere of the whole road is so lively that it's unbelievable. Gradually, some people began to shout happy newly married, forever together, longevity. The person who drove the airship was also mischievous, throwing money wherever he yelled loudly. The sound of blessings came and went on both sides of the street, like a festival. People scrambled to grab the rain of flowers, while holding up their mobile phones and shouting. Everyone laughed. Seeing the excitement outside, Muzi couldn't help laughing, but felt that sitting in the car was boring. Why not go out and grab a few money roses? Murong Cheng raised his eyebrows, and asked her with a bit of complacency, "Are you happy?" Muzi turned her head to look at him. The corners of her brows and eyes were full of smiles, her clear and bright eyes were shining brightly, overflowing with undying affection. Happy, she bit her lower lip lightly, and replied with a smile, "Very happy." "As long as you're happy." Murong Cheng was also in a very good mood. Muzi teased him, "Are we spending money to buy happiness? Don't worry about how the happiness comes from, as long as the happiness is real happiness, that's enough. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again." Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 959. Murong Cheng bowed his head and approached her, kissed her lips. His voice was hoarse and ambiguous, "There are happier things to come." Muzi couldn't help laughing again. She knew this guy was serious for only 3 seconds, so she stretched out her hand to push him reproachfully, "Don't take off my lipstick." The two were arguing in the car, when the phone rang suddenly. Murong Cheng glanced at him. It was his old father-in-law. "Who told you to do this?" Situ Yan was shocked and angry on the phone, throwing objects in the sky. "You are violating traffic regulations. What if a stampede is caused? Have you ever considered public safety hazards?" Murong Cheng lazily replied, "Isn't something wrong? What if? What if?" Situ Yan was heartbroken. With so many people gathered together, if something happens, even an ambulance won't be able to get through. Murong Cheng smiled disapprovingly, "Please don't say anything unlucky on this happy day." Situ Yan was choked, and his face flushed with anger. "What's the matter with those flowers? Where did you get the money? Do you know that the national emblem is printed on the banknotes? You are blatantly desecrating the country. It is an extremely disrespectful act. I'm throwing Bangladeshi banknotes. If I want to blaspheme, I don't blaspheme the Hwaya kingdom. Why are you in a hurry?" Another deafening burst of happy newlywed blessings erupted from the crowd, drowning out the voices on the phone. "Hang up first, it's too noisy and I can't hear clearly. What else do you need? Let's talk later when we get to the restaurant," Murong Cheng said casually, and hung up the phone casually. "Hello? Hello?" Situ Yan on the other end of the phone almost died of anger. He and Chen Kaling were also in the motorcade, closely following Murong Cheng and Muzi's wedding car. Witnessing this carnival with his own eyes, the president felt no surprise, only shock. He was so afraid of making trouble. Once innocent people are injured in the crowding and pushing, Muzi and Murong Cheng will be sent to the forefront. At that time, waiting for them is not a blessing, but a condemnation. These paper roses are folded so lifelike. Chen Kaling looked out of the window, full of joy. Zizi's husband is really good at making people happy. "Het." Situ Yan sneered, "You really know how to find excitement." In the wedding car, Muzi leaned over and asked, "Why Bangladeshi notes?" Murong Cheng explained to her, "I have had people try every type of banknote. The 10 note in the Bengali banknote is the reddest and brightest, and it works best for folding roses." After finishing speaking, Murong Cheng said arrogantly again, "Otherwise, you think I will just throw money away? Vulgar. It's the same as throwing money, and turning it into roses will add a touch of sentimentality." Murong Cheng is complacent and proud that he came up with this idea. Muzi thinks that he looks like a big boy asking for credit, childish and extremely cute. She couldn't help holding his face, kissed and kissed again, and said with a smile, "Not vulgar, but so silly." No matter how cruel and cruel he was in front of outsiders, in front of her, he was always a silly boy willing to please her. She really loves him. The convoy of wedding cars moved forward slowly amidst roaring cheers, and countless cameras were aimed at this grand wedding. At another intersection where no one was paying attention, a convoy of wedding cars passed by silently. There were no flowers, No cheers, under the scorching sun, the silence was so desolate. The groom and the bride were sitting in the car, both of them looked extremely ugly. There was a faint noise. If you look back, you can see the huge whale airship in the distance, and thousands of people clustered together. This kind of battle, this kind of ostentation, Ning Yue has never seen it before. Jealousy and embarrassment filled her whole heart. She gritted her teeth tightly, feeling her throat was so sweet that she almost wanted to vomit blood. Who did Muzi I marry? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 960. Xia Lixuan was also very uncomfortable. He frowned and said in a cold voice, the daughter of a dignified president, marrying and acting like a nouveau riche is really unsightly. These words were a bit sour and very unpleasant, but they miraculously soothed Ning Yue's heart. That's right, she's just a nouveau riche, and that's all Muzi I can do. Maybe it's a local custom. I don't understand the rules here in Jingling. I always have to show off my wealth to feel honorable, Ning Yue said calmly, with a smile on the corner of her mouth. Isn't it usually said like this? What kind of people, the more they like to post about things. The poorer you are, the more you want the world to recognize your financial strength, and you can't wait to throw out a lot of cash to show off. The final result will only be ridiculous. Ning Yue was convinced that Muzi I married a vulgar nouveau riche, and that's why she deliberately showed off at the wedding. She was more psychologically balanced, but she couldn't help feeling sour just looking at the bustle over there. The wedding car convoy drove for about 20 minutes on the road. For 20 minutes, the flower rain never stopped. Sidu Yan really wanted to rush to the front and take Murong Cheng down, and ask him where he got so much money, but Sidu Yan couldn't care about it now. He was on the phone all the way. Call the local leaders of the Emergency Preparedness Agency, the Ministry of Transportation, the Emergency Center, etc., and ask them to make all preparations to prevent unexpected situations that may arise at any time. No surprises. I don't know if it's God's blessing, but there was no stampede and no casualties when a large number of people gathered and threw money wildly. It's really lucky. Sidu Yan was really relieved. After finally arriving at the place, he was surrounded by reporters just as he got out of the car. The guards stopped the swarming media reporters a few meters away, but they couldn't stop the cameras from shooting non-stop. Numerous microphones jostled. My lord, did you conceal the identity of the groom before? Was it out of some political considerations? Will your policy restrictions on the gaming industry be affected by this marriage? How did Ling Qinjin meet the directors of the Mu Group? How long have they known each other? Sidu Yan was puzzled at first, but he was stunned when he listened. His brain seemed to be knotted suddenly, and it became muddy, unable to think. What happened? What Muse Group? Isn't that Murong Cheng surnamed Murong? Could it be? Sidu Yan's face turned pale little by little. If it's the Muse Group, if it's the Muse Group that swallowed the gambling industry in Guangxianghai City, the Muse Group that actively tendered in Yingshui Bay, the most law-breaking Muse Group. Can't think about it anymore. There was only one thought left in Sidu Yan's mind, if only he was just a little boy. Compared to the stunned Sidu Yan, Murong Cheng walked leisurely and looked relaxed. Today is his wedding day, no matter how much the reporters bombard him, he is still in a good mood. Today we only talk about marriage, and we won't answer any other questions. Murong Cheng held Muzi's hand and said with a smile. An extremely alert reporter in the crowd immediately asked loudly, Mr. Mu. What made you and Miss Sidu marry? That's a very good question. Murong Cheng smiled, walked over with long legs, took the microphone, and looked back into Muzi's eyes. There is only one reason for our union, and that is I love you. The lights flickered, and all the cameras were aimed at the couples looking at each other. The reporters were hungry and thirsty, frantically pressing the shutter, so that they could take pictures and use them as headlines tomorrow. Not far away, Ning Yue stood by the door like a stone, staring at Murong Cheng's familiar face in disbelief. Her body couldn't help trembling. It's Huo Rong. Mu Zi actually married the richest and most powerful man in the south, Huo Rong. There was a crisp click. Ning Yue's delicate manicure was broken, but she didn't know it. Her face was as white as snow. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 961. For the future partner, Ning Yue has carefully selected. In the end she chose Xia Lixuan, talented, prestigious, and wealthy. In fact, she has not made a complete decision. The wedding date is at the end of the year, and she still has time to hesitate. There are many outstanding people in Jingling, maybe she can meet a better one? With this in mind, she intentionally concealed her relationship with Xia Lixuan, so as not to let the reporters make it known to the world, but when she learned that Mu Zi was getting married and was going to reserve a place in Tianke Phoenix Palace, she panicked. Mu Zi rented out the venue, but she can only rent 2 floors when she gets married in the future. Wouldn't she be laughed to death? Fortunately, the person Mu Zi married was very shabby, and even the job had to be solved by the president, so Ning Yue persuaded the old lady to let the wedding be held on the same day, so as to avoid the embarrassment of the pomp and gain praise in a certain way with envious eyes. She began to look forward to this wedding like never before. Looking forward to it, even her pickiness of Xia Lixuan disappeared completely. The sense of psychological superiority filled Ning Yue with happiness. She couldn't wait to see Mu Zi marrying that mediocre and incompetent person. Then she would definitely send her sincere blessings. You are really a good match. But why? Why did it become like this? Why Huo Rong? The explosion was well known. Even Ning Yue, who was far away in Jingling, had heard of it. She heard that after Huo Rong's death, all his cronies fled to Xianghai. The steward Wang Zhan tried his best to support the situation, and finally sold all his property to a businessman surnamed Mu because he seemed unable to maintain it. After going around and around, it turns out that Huo Rong is the businessman surnamed Mu. Murong Cheng. Ning Yue's throat was blocked, and the blood in her body seemed to be congealed, losing temperature, and she was shivering with cold. All this is so ironic. Did she plan carefully, and the result she got was to make herself the laughing stock of the whole capital? Ning Yue wanted to faint. And Xia Lixuan beside her also had an extremely ugly expression at the moment. Being able to court the most proud celebrity in the entire Beijing mausoleum was originally a matter of honor, and he has no objection to holding a wedding together. Every year during the Golden Week holiday, high-end restaurants often receive several new couples on the same day, which is very common. But the other party's scene is too big, so that the other newlyweds are reduced to supporting roles. Who can bear it? Everyone wants to be the protagonist of the wedding. Besides, Xia Lixuan is a talented scholar in Jingling, and he has always been the most dazzling one in the crowd. Have you ever suffered such humiliation? Today's Xia family is a joke. Xia Lixuan felt resentful towards Ning Yue. If it wasn't for this woman, why would he have to face such embarrassment? Murong Cheng walked into the banquet hall holding Mu Zi's hand, surrounded by guests, laughter and congratulations all around, lively and jubilant. Ning Yue and Xia Lixuan at the door were pushed aside by the crowd. No one noticed them. A cousin of the Xia family who was acting as Xia Lixuan's best man hurried over, found Xia Lixuan, and said, "No, there are not enough seats. We still have a few tables that cannot be seated. Would a table be okay?" Xia Lixuan's face was livid. His majestic young master of the Xia family was reduced to letting guests sit in the aisle when they got married. Xia Lixuan's feeling at this moment was not only embarrassment, he could no longer bear this embarrassment, he turned around angrily and strode away. The best man was dumbfounded, and hurried to catch up, leaving Ningyue standing there with a pale face. In a wedding, the groom ran away, leaving only the bride. How can this marriage be concluded?